Sometimes you really just have to sit back and open a good manga, read a good manga, watch a good anime, play a good video game, and just kind of indulge in it and get lost into the world of whatever it is that you're indulging in. Now, that leads me to what I want to talk about today in this video, and that is escapism. For those of you who do not know, like, I'm not some scholarly person or anything. I'm just some guy on the internet. So for escapism, honestly, I'm just going to give you guys the Google definition of it. Basically, escapism is the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in a fantasy. And when it comes to me personally, though, that's obviously what I can talk about the most. So that's what I'm going to do. And it actually really like helps certain situations, you know, because like if you really think about it, like life is not just sunshines and rainbows. Like, it's definitely not. So on some days you might be, let's say you're in a bad mood or something like that, you can just put a good anime on and you literally can forget about whatever is going on in your life at that moment and just completely indulge into the anime that you're watching. Same things goes with manga and also video games. Like, for instance, you can play a video game and it has a huge open world and you just leave this reality and then you basically transport into that reality. Obviously not literally, because you can only stay there for a set amount of time if you actually have responsibilities in the real world, but just that piece of time where you can escape to another world, it definitely can help depending on whatever situation you're in. And I just want to be grateful to anime and manga for allowing us to have that type of opportunity. Now, I'll use some anecdotal examples from my own personal experience, but to make kind of a more hyperbolic example, just so people can kind of get more of a grasp on it. Let's say a person's, you know, in jail for the rest of their life and they're an anime and manga fan. If that person reads a manga, he can escape that reality that he's facing of being put in jail for the rest of his life, and just for a moment he can read a manga and escape to that world and get some enjoyment despite the situation that he's put in. Now, that was obviously a hyperbolic example, like that was very exaggerated. I mean, it's possible, of course, it's in the realm of possibilities. That was basically an example that I kind of just made up off the top of my head, but considering I'm a YouTuber, I definitely don't feel any type of way about sharing personal examples, you know. We kind of put ourselves on the internet for people to talk to us, and we talk to people, and I talk to everyone in the comments. So continuing the conversation, kind of something recently that happened in my life. You know, 2020 in general just has not been the greatest of year for most people. Now, I'm not trying to say that your 2020 was bad, but I'm just saying as a collective majority of people did not have a wonderful 2020. Now, that does not mean we can't be grateful for some things. For example, my channel started to gain momentum in 2020. This is basically my first year on YouTube with this channel. I mean, I've had it in the past, but you know, I never really did anything with it until this year. But speaking on some personal examples of escapism personally working in my favor, recently in this year, just a lot's been going on. People have been dying and people have been fighting and just going through a lot this year. Now, I don't want to come off as a person who's like sappy all the time or anything, because I'm definitely not. You guys can tell in my videos, but every once in a while it's cool to just have these videos just talking about things like this. Like, a personal example of me escaping to manga is during a point in my life where, specifically this year, I went through a bunch of stuff repeatedly back to back. Like, if you've ever been in a relationship and then you get out of that relationship, for some time after you've gotten out of the relationship, you're gonna not be in the best of mood, because let's say you spent like a year of your life with a person and then they're no longer there. That definitely can put a damper on you. So like, a way of addressing it is you kind of sometimes just have to block things out of your life and ignore it. And a good way to ignore things is to escape into the world of manga. And I'm using manga for this example specifically because this is a personal example and this is what I personally got away with. And basically, after a relationship like that, you're kind of in a damped mood. So I kind of wanted to read a manga that was more on the dark side, I want to say, because basically, for those of you who have never been in a relationship, you're not going to be jumping up with joy after you get out of a relationship that you actually enjoyed being in. So I was looking for a manga that was more dark, and the manga that I stumbled across at this time through me going through what I was going through at the time was Chainsaw Man. This manga kind of allowed me to escape into their reality, and it kind of made me more grateful for the reality that I'm in now. Obviously, I'm not grateful for losing a relationship, but I'm grateful that I could read a manga and realize the stuff that they go through in the manga, and then kind of realize like they go through hard things, but they can make it through. For example, in Chainsaw Man, the main character's name is Denji, and his life actually sucks. Like, I would not want to switch lives with him ever. Like, he just constantly goes through a lot of bad things in his life, and he couldn't even get a girlfriend, let alone kiss a girl, let alone do any of this stuff, simply due to the fact of how bad his life was. And I took some things from that and applied it to my life, and it just makes you a lot more grateful. And I think mangakas actually put things in there to leave messages. So another manga that I can think of off the top of my head that leaves a message, kind of, this one is more mainstream, I guess you can say, in Naruto, how basically they put the message in there that you just have to keep working hard and then you can achieve anything you want. It definitely helps, but even then, you do have to realize Naruto did go through a lot of stuff. And basically, kind of the point I'm getting at is, sometimes it just is what it is. And I know that it's kind of irresponsible in a way to just forget about real life and just go head first into a manga. But you have to realize those hours that you're reading the manga is hours that you're spending not thinking about other things that are going on. It's hours that you're spending enjoying your time and making the most out of a bad situation. So in my example of my personal anecdote, obviously I was in a bad state of mind, or I wouldn't say a bad state of mind, but just in a not the best of moods, and just opened up the manga, read the manga, and forgot about everything else that was going on. And eventually time heals all wounds. You've probably heard that before, but just the amount of time you can spend reading a manga and ignoring whatever is going on in real life and just escaping into their world and into their shoes, and it just kind of makes you forget about everything else that you don't want to think about. And by me saying that, I'm not saying go read a manga and just forget about your real life, but what I am saying is that you definitely can find solace within a good manga if you ever need it.